All right, welcome to the Ultimate Hockey Show here on a post-game edition of the Ultimate Hockey Show. I cannot hear myself for some bizarre reason. Rick, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, tonight I cannot hear myself for some reason. I will have to get that figured out. There it is. Okay, turn myself up a little bit. Who knew? Welcome to the Ultimate Hockey Show post-game edition following a Winnipeg Jets victory over the Toronto Maple Leafs. Um, 5-2 the final score. Mark Scheifele a third period hat trick. Actually, it was weird. Everybody that scored in the game actually had multiple goals. It was John Tavares with two for Toronto, Kyle Connor with two for the Jets, Mark Scheifele with three. So three players doing all the scoring in a 7-goal hockey game before the holidays.
Yep.
Um, Welcome to the Ultimate Hockey Show. The Winnipeg Jets rolling on into the break. Pretty good week, Rhett. Didn't start too hot in California, but finished with probably two of the better games of the season, particularly on home ice. The best team of the season, I thought, of the 30 plus so far. We'll get to that in just a minute. How are you tonight?
Good. Good. Actually, I'm doing really good, Michael. How about you?
Really did, really did. Seeing a friend today before Christmas holidays, before the Christmas, well, holidays, Christmas rush, whatever you want to call it, Christmas festivities begin, um, which include some family time. And I don't think you and I have discussed what we're going to do with this show yet, so we'll have to do it on the fly. Um, but no, it was a pretty good week, all things considered, for the Winnipeg Jets. Rich. The only flaw, and it really annoys me, is the last 3 minutes of that game in Anaheim, stopping the Jets from getting a perfect week. Um, Boy, did that game stick in my craw. And not because the way the rest of the weekend went, the rest of the week went. Don't get me wrong, but they pull one out in San Jose. They did a winning goal with 2.5 minutes left. Maybe let's start there before we talk about the Anaheim game. Um,
Sure.
what did you think of the game in San Jose? I thought it was an okay game, but I didn't think it was the Winnipeg Jets' best game by a long shot.
No, no, and it's you travel to California, and California is nice, and you enjoy all those things. And San Jose has good young players, right? They actually play. Were you not surprised somewhat at how well they play their system? Like they have that new coach. They played a very good defensive game against the Jets. They didn't give the Jets a lot. They clogged up the middle of the ice.
The Halo, Rob. Yeah, you called it. Yeah.
What are you reading? Is there a comment there?
Yeah.
Oh,
You've done a halo over your head from the
yeah,
light.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. But anyway, I don't know. I thought, considering they're one of the worst teams in the league and the Jets, that's the thing we forget is everybody wants to play their best against the best teams, right? Whether that's NFL, CFL, you're in the major leagues, hockey, whatever it is. So the Jets got a target on them because they're one of the best teams in the league. So when that team comes into San Jose, comes into Anaheim, you better get geared up for those games if you're a player on San Jose or Anaheim because that's the best of the best, right? So it's like the other teams bring their very best to the Jets for that reason. So I don't know. They didn't play horrible against San Jose. They just kind of played sort of rope a dope. And whether you want to say they were lucky, they were good at the end. That was a nice goal by Lowry deflecting that
Yeah.
that shot by DeMello with like a minute left or a minute left or whatever that was, a minute and a half left. That was really pretty. So yeah,
There was
I
the
don't
tying goal and then the winning goal in the third period.
right.
Yeah,
But
I just
I think
I,
Lowry's goal was the winning goal, was it not? That
yeah,
deflection.
Lowry's was the winning goal. Yep.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so they were down at one. We thought, oh boy, they didn't start to jump off the wrong foot. Then they get a tying goal, and then Lowry wins the game on the deflection.
yeah.
Um, can I just talk about San Jose for a minute? Like
Sure.
San Jose, their record is not the greatest. Okay, like they're bottom 5 in the league, but boy, I wouldn't want to be them in 2 to 3 years when they start summoning this talent to play together. Um, they have a young goaltender that they got from Nashville and Vladislav Askarov, who put a scare into the Edmonton Oilers and ended up getting a point there on Saturday. Um, Thanks to Matthias Ekholm's Hurlitz ends up going to overtime. But like I can just see what Mike Greer is starting to build in San Jose, and that's not even touching the surface with of what I the star player, Matherin Celebrini gonna be. Um, oh, that's a handful already
Yeah.
in first year, and you know I think they're slowly starting to build this in a way it's gonna be sustainable in California. Because remember, we're not that far removed with maybe 5, 6 years, 2 years, 2, 3 years pre-COVID, if you will, where LA, San Jose, and Anaheim was the graveyard. It was the Pacific Division graveyard. You
Yeah.
know, trying to play those teams 3 games in 4 nights because they were such good teams, not that far removed. Well, Rent, I don't think we're that far removed from most 3 teams again, particularly the Sharks and the Ducks being relevant again.
Yeah.
And the next night, I thought the Jets got everything they could handle from Anaheim. They were completely outplayed for periods. It was 19-4 at one point. The shots on net. As luck would have it, you're up in the third period. Then the right team justifiably probably won off a couple bounces. You could scold DeMello for putting the puck in the wrong spot and the game-winning goal happening. But like,
But that wasn't DeMello. That wasn't DeMello.
who was it?
Pionk.
Oh, Pionk, right.
He
Two.
tried to make
Yeah.
that outlet pass from the corner to
Yep.
Nemestikov in front of the net, which
Yeah.
is fine. But that one guy there, not Macklin Celebrini, it was another guy, got a stick. That guy had a stick on everything that night. Was it
Yeah. Terry?
No. Terry scored. It was the other guy. He's an Italian kid. The name escapes me, but
I'll look it up.
But anyway, all that to say, he got the stick, poked at it, and then knocked it over to past Nemestikov and over to the other guy, and then
Yeah.
he waited out,
Yeah.
go around him to score. Listen, it happens. I'm not mad. In the moment,
Auckland.
it wasn't Eklund. No,
No.
it was a different guy.
Hold on.
If you have that, I'll tell you as soon as you tell me the name of the
Vetrano, Frank Vetrano.
Vetrano. Yeah, Vetrano. I think it's with a V, right?
Yeah, Vetrano, yeah.
He's the one that poked the puck. Pionk passed it out, and then Vetrano just stabbed at it right before it got to Nemestikov, went across, and then there was nothing they could do. And then was it Celebrini who scored that last one, or no? It was the other guy. I don't think it was Celebrini. It was Terry. Is that Terry?
Troy Terry, yeah.
Troy Terry scored the last one, waited out Comrie, and then put it in the back of the net. But listen, for Neil Pionk, for all that he's done this year, for him to make that mistake, and listen, it can happen. I get it. It's a shame, though, because it was right at the end when the Jets had a chance to go into overtime, right, and get at least a tie.
Yeah.
And then you never know.
See, and that was the part that annoyed me the most out of everything. You're a few seconds away from at least a point in a game where you probably don't deserve it, and you throw that kind of play up the middle of the ice, and for a player that should know better, and you wind up with nothing in the game. Quite honestly, where you probably deserve nothing.
Yeah. Well, again, you know what it is too, and this is, again, I'm going to say this, I say it every week. It's, if you like, games are sometimes not reflective of the teams that are playing, because you have one team, like that game against Minnesota. We're going to talk about it. Minnesota was playing at home the night before, late game. Then they got stuck at customs. They didn't get in their hotel until like 3 o'clock in the morning. And the Jets were home for 3 days and had was it 3 days or 3 days between Anaheim and Minnesota coming into town, coming back from Anaheim. So just saying, Minnesota is not that bad. Like, they looked slow, they looked sluggish, they looked leg heavy, they're tired. It's not a true thing. Now, if you give Minnesota and Winnipeg each 3 or 4 days rest, or you come off the holiday break here, 5 days, and you have Minnesota playing Winnipeg, either in Minnesota or Winnipeg, it's a completely different game. And that's another. Now people say, well, Rick, it's the same for everybody. Yeah, I know it is. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's boo-hoo Minnesota. What I'm saying is it's crap. It's not good hockey. It's like Thursday night football. It's garbage. I don't like it. I don't like it.
Well, it's like what you said last week. It's a disservice to the game when you got the top two teams in the division separated by 3 points on a Saturday night, hockey night in Canada. Jets ready to go because they hadn't played since Thursday or Wednesday. I think Tuesday, Wednesday they played out there, so they had 2 days. Then you have Minnesota playing Utah. They lost to Utah. Now they come in to Winnipeg and yeah, I don't know, at this truncated schedule, like Minnesota's hitting the wall here with the schedule. Losing to Utah, losing to Winnipeg tonight. They're hosting Chicago, I think, before the break. To me, this Four Nations thing I understand it's about the money and it's about best on best as well, but I think you're diluting your product by making everybody play these compressed schedules. And now the Jets are off till Saturday. Then they go home to play Ottawa on Saturday. Then they play Nashville on Monday, Colorado on Tuesday. So right out of the break, it's 3 games in 4 days. And like, to me, if there's a way to eliminate a lot of back-to-backs in hockey, I would do it. Granted, the Jets, I think, are one of the teams that played the fewest amount of back-to-backs relative to the rest of the league, or either near the bottom anyway. I think they only have 8 or 9 of them. But like, to me, I think you're just ruining your product by overexposing players. And, you know, the NFL has kind of run into this scenario too, where, you know, you get the Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens, and you get the Houston Texans, and you get the Pittsburgh Steelers playing 3 games in 10 days. And football and hockey, yeah, they're different things, but at the end of the day, like, I challenge anybody when you're playing, you know, 6 games in 10 days to be at peak performance shape. And it's just one of those things. It's just one of those things, unfortunately, where money overrules common sense. And I think, Rich, if you could eliminate the season to be like a 75 or a 70 game season, I think everybody would be better off. But I think the NHL is so much of a date-driven league where if you could get extra home games for extra teams, they're going to take it. And that's just the reality of the beast. And unfortunately, the Jets in Minnesota bore the brunt of that, you know, one team being ready, the other team, let's be honest, no-showed.
Yeah. Well, no-show, whatever. I made my point. I said it before. But you know what they say, and I have to believe that it works itself out over the course of 82 games. There's enough of this, like, there's going to be enough evenness between teams having to play back-to-backs and teams having to travel the night before another game or some of these other things. Like, I just looked at the schedule here. It's so quirky. Did you know that after the break, the Jets play 10 of their next 11 games at home?
Yep. The only difference is the Colorado New Year's Eve game.
Correct. But what's kooky is you go up into the mountain, into Mile High, where you got trouble with your lungs and everything else. They play Nashville on the 30th, Monday at 6:30, and then
Yep.
the next day they fly into Colorado and play back to back on the road in Colorado, flying into Colorado, changing a time zone up into the mountain air. That's see again, garbage in my
Yeah.
mind. That game, you mark that down. I'm saying it now. The Jets are going to lose that game. That's my prediction. Now they could surprise me, but I think they're going to lose that game because it's just
Yeah, I just think I think it's very interesting how the schedule is made up, and I don't pretend to be a schedule maker. I'm only a schedule maker for a local junior hockey league here, but
right.
I don't deal with a lot of those same elements, rightfully so. But the schedule makes no sense. Even again, not to go on a tangent, because I did go too far down the road, but that last Jets road trip where they played 9 of 11, I think it was on the road in 4 different time zones,
Yeah,
and they weren't in the same city for something like 16 straight games.
yeah.
Like to me, that's just a really dumb road trip where you go east, central, west, home, east. To me, it just makes no sense.
And it's the weakest, and it was the weakest or it was the weakest result in their
Yeah,
record.
and if you look at it, the Jets were 15-1 in their first 15 game segment. They went 3-7 in their next game segment. In their next 10 game segment, this current one that they just finished is 7-2-1, and looked more like the 15-1 team that was in that first sort of stretch. So
I know. I just put it out there. I'm just putting it out there. That's it. It is what it is.
It's interesting.
Okay. So San Jose, now they go to Anaheim.
Yep.
And they lose in Anaheim. Then they come home and they play Minnesota.
Yep.
Great game. They had
Did
rest
for the Jets. Yep.
They had rest. They had an extra night's worth of rest. Then you see what the Jets are like. Then you see the true stock of a team, especially a team that plays with speed. And then to go into Toronto this afternoon, that really surprised me. I know Matthews and Tanev were out of the lineup, but that really surprised me that the Jets were able to just rope-a-dope Toronto. Toronto didn't get 40 shots on net. I think the Jets had 27 and Toronto had 25. Like it wasn't a huge shootout. There was a lot of yet there was lots of skating. There was lots of flow to the game, but just a lot of good defense, a lot of blocked shots, and the Jets just hung in there and then scored when they could. And wow, it's very impressive. The Jets are a good team. I hate to say it. I hate to admit it. I still somehow think it's somewhat of an illusion because I don't know how they can be good in the playoffs with a lineup that is that small and has that little amount of sandpaper other than a few guys. But maybe Hellebuck will figure out the playoff hockey and he'll be spectacular in the first round like he was in 2018. And things could be different this year. So
one big story in this game is the Jets losing Hayden Fleury to a lower body injury. I don't pretend to be a doctor, but that didn't look good.
What happened? I didn't see it.
Knees and legs are not meant to bend that way.
Okay, he kind of fell under with his knees kind of rolled around him. Yeah,
kind of buckled. Coach Arneal said in his post-game address, he's day to day.
Okay,
take that for what it's worth. Day to day.
But Samberg is not healthy yet. He's just going to start skating after the holiday break.
Yeah, he's going to start skating on Friday when the team goes back to practice.
Which means we're going to see Heinola and Stanley in the lineup then, probably.
Well, if Logan Stanley is healthy, because Stanley missed the last 2 games with a lower body injury.
Okay. Now they got 5 days off. But I guess alternatively, they bring up Dylan Coghlan, right? Or
well, it's interesting. They actually recalled Simon Lundmark before the game today. So that led to some questions of whether a defenseman would be whether a defenseman will be in question. And that was leading, of course, after Adam Lowry and Nikolai Ehlers both missed practice yesterday with what coach called maintenance day.
Okay.
But again, that's just the way it is. So, Rhett, I didn't ask you to prepare for this because I wanted to catch you by surprise a little bit.
Okay.
The Winnipeg Jets. We'll get to Rob's comments in a little bit here. He left us a novel to dissect, which we appreciate. So the Winnipeg Jets at the Christmas break, holiday break, are 25, 10, and 1. That presently sits 7 points up on the Minnesota Wild, who play tonight at home the Chicago Blackhawks in a game that's underway at 7 o'clock. So at minimum, there'll be 5 points up on the Wild going into the holiday break, with the Wild having one game in hand. If I would have said to you, Rhett, the Winnipeg 25, the Winnipeg Jets would be 25, 10, and 1 at the holiday break, would you have bought it? Would you believe me?
I would not have believed you. I would have been over the moon, thrilled by it. So, see, it's all relative, right? Like, and look at me now. We're just looking at it and saying, oh, they could have gotten at least a point or even two out of Anaheim, and they could have gotten a point here, and they could have gotten there was a few other games. There's some games they lost pretty soundly, but I'm just saying there's probably a few points here and there that they left on the table. So, and yet we're thinking about that. And yet when you look at, like you say, if you had to say, like, the Jets, are they number one in the league as of right now? I think so.
Yep, they are. Yeah, they are 3 up on Washington.
3 up on Washington. Yeah, that's right. And even if Washington plays tonight, I don't know if they do.
Yes, they do. They're in Boston.
Okay. But the Bruins have been like on a tear lately. I think the Bruins have won 7 of their last 10. So
yeah, we're gonna
be ending up at the break in first place in the league. And I would have
regardless of what happens.
Regardless of what happens. And
you're right. The Bruins are 7-2-1 in their last 10. One of those 2 losses to the Winnipeg Jets. So
I would have been over the moon if you would have told me the Jets were in first in the league at the holiday break. So,
okay, so to follow up on your question, you get to play Santa. What are you giving the Winnipeg Jets for a Christmas present?
If I could provide them anything?
To provide them anything. Within reason. You can't just say, I give them a Stanley Cup. But what could you give the Winnipeg Jets as a present?
Well, one thing maybe that's more real. I'll give you something that's more realistic, and then maybe something that's less realistic. I think more realistic. I'd love to give them a slight improvement in their penalty killing, because if they could just get their, I think I just heard on the weekend, their penalty killing is in the bottom half of the league. I think they're 20th.
Yeah, 17th coming into today.
Okay, the bottom. If you could get them to another 5 spots up, like top 12 or top, get them into 10th in the league, 11th or 12th, sort of in that top third of the league in terms of penalty killing, with the goals against average and Hellebuck and Comrie, save percentage, that power play, 4 lines. Wow. But on the other side, see, we got some comments, and I agree. If I could give the Jets one thing, it would be, actually, you know what it would be? It would be Jacob Trouba to play with Josh Morrissey again. Now, Jets aren't going to take on Jacob Trouba because he just got traded, and they're not going to take on $6 million of salary now, and nor do they want to. And I think he's got a no trade clause, and Winnipeg, I'm sure, is one of them. But that being said, that's what I think the Jets need. Is they need somebody. Even though I like DeMello, I think he's a good defenseman. He's smart. I just don't know for the playoffs in front of the net, playing against the very best team in the league. Can he compete at that level and be that great with Morrissey? I'd love to see Morrissey play with somebody 6'3", 6'4", 230 pounds, right-hand shooting defenseman. And he doesn't even have to be this great puck mover. He doesn't have to be offensively minded, because that's what Josh Morrissey is. Let him go up in the play. But somebody who can kind of clear the front of the net, take pressure off of Morrissey, be a big stud and a big slug. I'd love to see the Jets get that. But I don't know how those guys aren't available. Like they're talking, get Provorov.
Yeah.
Well, first thing is Provorov is a left shooting defenseman. And is he available? I think he plays with Columbus, right? Is it?
Yeah.
Is it Columbus? Yeah. But then, or Travis Sanheim from Philadelphia, depending upon how the Flyers are doing now in the next few months before the trade deadline. So there are some options out there, but what are you going to give up? You're going to give up a first rounder? You're going to give up Chaz Lucius, or are you going to give up Colby Barlow? I'm not giving up those guys.
No.
So
if I could give the Jets two things, okay? I think you can approach this one of two ways.
Okay.
I think the Jets need a Rasmus Anderson type.
Okay.
Of the Calgary Flames, top 4 defenseman. He can play with Morrissey, and I think you slide DeMello down. DeMello down in your lineup. My own dad can't stand that DeMello is a top 2 defenseman.
Really?
It doesn't make sense to him. And I would concur to an extent. I think that I think for the Jets to go to where they need to go and where we think they can go based on the start of the season, Dylan DeMello has to come off of that top pair.
Wow.
That's just me, and then I think you need to put Dylan Samberg back into that top 4 spot. I think on the left side, because I think if you have any kind of semblance of having to put Billy Hainela over there, I think that spells trouble. And I think that the Winnipeg Jets need to get a Rasmus Anderson type. They need to get a little bit more of an Adam Lowry type of player that has offensive potential for maybe at the second line center. I know that's asking a lot. I don't think you're going to get both. I think that would be a stretch if you wound up getting both. And then I just like, I really feel like you need to move on from one of Logan Stanley or Billy Hainela. To me, I don't see a time and a place for where this team needs to go for what they need now. I just don't see how there's a long-term place for both of them on this team, given that this team is probably going to have to take a run at the Stanley Cup this year.
Well, then maybe one of those guys is what you package back when you get more of a veteran defenseman, maybe on a short-term contract coming back.
Because it's like, okay, let's just to illustrate my point a little bit more. If you take Hayden Fleury out of this lineup, which Hayden Fleury has earned a spot for the rest of the year, as far as I'm concerned, in that top 6 somewhere. I don't think you move him. I think he's been a serviceable guy replacing Dylan Samberg. I think he can finish off that third pair quite nicely. But the fact of the matter is, you got Logan Stanley hurt, you got Dylan Samberg hurt, now you got Hayden Fleury hurt. Now we say day to day, but that could change, once things heal up and once you got a couple days to kind of sit on it. Like, I'm still looking at major holes on this defense. And for the number 1 team in the NHL to have Logan Stanley, Billy Hainela on this pair, and then your next D player that comes up as a guy that doesn't have a lot of experience in Simon Lundmark, I think that's an indictment on where this team's defensive prospects are. And to be truthful, that's nowhere to be found. And I shudder to think, like, if you lose a Morrissey for some period of time, if you lose a Scheifele for some period of time, like, are you going to be able to withstand that? And to me, the defense is always going to be a glaring hole until it fits. I mean, I saw the first 12 minutes of the game today. before the Jets scored. Like the Leafs were looking like they were gonna push them right out of the building, and I'm like, where is our now? He didn't play in this game, but like, where is our Chris Tanev? Where is our Ben Sherratt? Where is our Jacob Trouba? But when you go into the corner, you're scared to go into the corner because you're met with one of those guys. Um, yeah, Rob has brought up an interesting part. They need a defenseman with the grit and the physicality of Adam Lowry. Unfortunately, we lost Brendan Dillon to the Devils. I don't think Brendan Dillon coming back was ever in the cards, but boy, do you need a defenseman like him help. But again, I don't think that a guy like Brendan Dillon is mobile enough to be that sort of dual role, right? And so it's interesting, right? That I know I just rattled off a long list of things that I need and things that I want, but it's a 21-10 and however many overtime losses team that I'm seeing as a flaw. And in my mind, here come the Colorado Avalanche, 7-2-1 in the last 10. They're probably going to overtake Minnesota for second place relatively soon. This division is for the Jets to win. And yes, they will have playoff success with this year if they win that Central Division and end up playing a wildcard team. I don't like their chances in the 2-3 matchup just because it is the Central Division. But again, there's a whole lot of things that have to kind of fall into place here going forward. And
Yeah.
I don't think it's as simple as are the Winnipeg Jets a playoff team. This team is going to the playoffs. I don't foresee a scenario where they fall out of it. How do you optimize this roster to give it the best chance to win in the playoffs? Yes, it was explained to me that Logan Stanley and Billy Hanola on the back end probably won't be the defense pair that they go with, when they're trying to, win game 80, game 81, game 82 into the playoffs, etc. I think you need to see what you have in everybody, but I think you
Cool.
get into a point where some decisions need to be made. And I just don't know if you're going to have a better opportunity right now, the way it is positioned, to have a run at the Stanley Cup. So it's interesting, right? Because I feel like this is the chance, but I also know that Cheveldayoff is not one of those general managers to necessarily mortgage the future,
No, no.
right? So
I think, yeah.
it's that fine line.
Yeah, I don't think he's got. I agree with you. Like at the trade deadline, maybe if they really are that close, like they've done in the past, getting a second line center, they've done it like all the time here. They did it with Monahan last year and Hayes the year before and Paul Stastny the year before that. So, or like a few years before that. So, yeah. I don't know. I just don't want him. Honestly, I don't want him trading away any more first round draft choices. I just don't.
But what do you have to trade away to get anything if you don't want to give up a first rounder? You know what I'm saying?
Then maybe you go with what you have. Like they've experimented, they've done all these other times. They brought in a guy, changed the lineup, and especially with Hayes, it wasn't a good fit at all because he's not a skater. He's a plugger. He's not fast. You need somebody that can skate and be part of that flow, right? Paul Stastny was the best fit. Monahan was okay. He wasn't great. There was times he was great, other times he wasn't. So I don't know, but maybe you just go with what you got. Maybe
is the best thing to do now.
Maybe the best thing to do is to nothing because we've tried all the other changes before. And you know what's good is we've had all these defensemen or the defensemen get injured. We've had these guys cycle in. And I think Sandberg is there in your top four. And then, the bottom two between Heinola, Stanley, Fleury, and Miller and Coghlan. You got those pieces, and I would say they're interchangeable. They've each got their positives, and they're maybe not as positive. They're not a top two or even a top four pairing guy. but the bottom Fleury's played okay in the second pairing with Pionk. It's not his place. It's not. I think Sandberg
Right.
is way better there, but I don't know. Maybe you change things up completely different. And you say, you know what, we're not going to trade away a first round draft pick. We like the guys we have. They've played in our system. We like our system. Nobody knows our system better than our guys who've been in it all year. We're going to be loyal to them, and we're going to go with those guys, which would be a complete about face from how teams normally do it. Now the Jets have done it the last 3 or 4 years, and where has it gotten them? Not past the first round, right? So, or maybe once they got into the second round, but most times it was a first round knockout. So,
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because I also see the other side is like if you finish first in the Central and you have a near historic regular season and you wind up doing nothing, then you crash out early in the playoffs.
yep.
So it's a fascinating debate. Like I'm honestly sitting here going, maybe the best move is to is the move that you don't make.
Yeah.
I don't know. The more I sit here and about this, Rob, to be honest with me, what do you have in the players playing junior, AHL, or league overall? You have nothing potential, truly nothing solidified. Sorry, I gotta read that again. What do you have in the players playing junior or AHL or other leagues overseas? You have possible potential, nothing truly solidified. Oh, I think this is Rob just opening up the idea of it. Trading prospects is just trading prospects.
Listen, the future of the Jets in the next 5 years is Brandon Yeager, Colby Barlow, Larson,
even
right?
even Kevin He, I would put him in there.
Yeah, Chibrikov, that
Lambert,
Lambert, and that Edmondson or the defenseman or Solmonson or
Solomonson, yeah.
Solmonson, yep. And then did I say Colby Barlow,
Yep.
Chaz Lucius? Like there are some good players that the Jets have. That's their future. I don't want them trading away those guys because you can't get guys here in free agency.
Yep.
If you want guys like Mark Scheifele, those first line guys who can score, you got to draft them and you got to be loyal to them and treat them like gold and then keep them hanging around. And now look what you did. Now you've got guys like Scheifele and Hellebuck that are around here for the long term. So I'm not trading away Colby Barlow or Chaz Lucius or Brendan Yeager for anything, especially Brendan Yeager. Brendan Yeager, watch how he plays in the World Juniors. He's number one. He is the man on Team Canada. Team Canada is one of the favorite teams. He's the number one center. He's going to be on the ice all the time against the other team's best players, playing with really good wingers. He's going to be on the first power play unit. That guy is going to have all the chance to show Winnipeg fans what they have in the future with him.
Here's a question.
Yep.
Is the second line center for the playoffs Braden Yeager? I mean, how crazy is that?
Well, or at least have him around. But he's not bigger than Nemestikov, and Nemestikov has more NHL experience.
No, but I'm just saying, like, is it possible? If he had the great World Juniors and a great second half and his junior team crashes out early, but he just got traded to I don't know, how crazy is that?
I don't think it's it's an interesting rumor, interesting to chuck out there, but I don't think there's any substance to it. The Jets don't do that. They're not like other teams. The Jets don't bring in rookies
right
right at the if they want them to mature and grow and develop in the juniors and then in AHL, they're not going to bring a guy right from junior into first round of the playoffs against whoever they're playing, Minnesota or
Yeah,
Colorado or what. I just don't see,
Calgary or
yeah, I just don't see that happening.
But
I don't.
it's an interesting concept, right? Because it goes against what the conventional wisdom for Winnipeg and Winnipeg ownership for sure. Um, the other thing I wanted to quickly mention is how much does this future second line hole have to do with Braden Yater? Because you don't necessarily want to block a path for Braden Yater to make the NHL next year or even the year after. So, with Shifley locked up for 7 years, first of a 7 year contract, do you have to play the future in mind when it comes to acquiring somebody, but you're not maybe blocking one of your prospects?
But I don't see it as being blocking a prospect. I see it as who's ready.
Right?
Sorry, I keep saying Larson. It's Lambert. Brad
Yeah.
Lambert. Brad Lambert came up. He played okay, but he's still, he's fast, but he gets pushed around a lot. And that's, you saw it, right? And he could compete at that level, but it's a big lift from AHL to NHL hockey. That's why some guys play in the NHL and they're great in the AHL and they can never make it to NHL because they just can't take that next step. Chibrikov, on the other hand, wow, he looked pretty good. He was in the lineup. He didn't miss a beat. Now, maybe part of that too is playing wing versus center. I think center is a huge responsibility for a player, especially a young player. That's why Perfetti, centerman, has moved to the wing. He's done better. Same thing with Lambert. That's why Chibrikov, I think, has played better because he hasn't had the responsibility like Lambert has had when he's been in the lineup. So I don't know. I just don't. You know what? That'll be an interesting thing. If the Jets do something, that'll be the interesting question is, what do the Jets do? Do they see more of the need as second line center or as first pairing right shooting defenseman with Josh Morrissey? What's
Right
easier
now,
available?
right now, to me, the biggest need seems to be defense.
You think, see, and I think they look at their defense and they say, we're okay with that. I think if they're going to do something, it's going to be second line center again. That's what I think. That's what they're going to do. And how do you
It,
know? And see, and this is the other thing that bothers me. Even though that line is small, it's okay because they play a different style. Do you know it's hard to play with Nick Ehlers? I've heard, I don't know if it's rumors, it's true. Scheifele, he does okay with Ehlers, but Ehlers is hard to play with. And Scheifele, he'd rather play with Connor than with Ehlers because they're on the same page. So who knows how Ehlers plays? Nemestikov. So I'm saying now you bring in a guy, you bring in, I don't know, Sean Monahan, Kevin Hayes to your pick. You think those guys can figure out Nick Ehlers in like a few weeks before you get into the first round of the playoffs? He's a different cat. He's kind of does his own thing. He skates. He's got lots of speed. And Nemestikov, he's figured that out. And Perfetti's a good fit in that. So maybe I'm saying this, oh yeah, they need a like second line center. Maybe they don't. Maybe that lineup is good. And they have a small, fast second line. And then they have a hard, crushing third line. And then they have a speedy, pesty, hardworking, pretty tough, pretty big fourth line. And their defense, then they change it up. Maybe they play Stanley with Heinola one game. Then they play Stanley maybe with Miller another game. Maybe they play Miller with Heinola. Maybe they change it up depending upon the team they're playing against. If it's a heavier team versus more of a skating team, I don't know.
Here's the thing, couple more before we talk about the New York Rangers, because they just lost again, and they did not look good doing so.
And we should talk about the Vancouver Canucks too.
Yep. They have a feud with Pettersson and
we'll talk about that.
JT Miller, but we'll get to that in a minute. My question is, how much does the future of Nikolai Ehlers weigh into all of these decisions? I floated last week or the week before to get a top end D. Ehlers should be the one traded. After this week, I'm not so sure. Are you okay with going post deadline using Nikolai Ehlers as your own rental and risk losing them?
Doing that, or alternatively, like you say, maybe they become a team that says, you know what, we've got Chibrikov, who can play there on the left side there, or can play in that spot for him. And if we can't get Ehlers signed, or if we don't think we can get him signed, maybe we trade him like a few weeks before the trade deadline, and we get a right shooting defenseman in return, and maybe a prospect or like a draft choice going the other way. You kind of make. Sorry, just let me finish my point. You kind of you trade away somebody who's a huge part of your team, but you trade him away because you can't keep him, with the idea that now we can get back what we really need, or what we think we need, heading into the playoffs, because we do have somebody that can maybe fill that spot where the other guy is right now. I mean, Chibrikov is not Ehlers. I'm not saying that, but you could get some some interesting parts back for a Nick Ehlers, because he has great value, I think, in the NHL. But I'd like to see him sign him. Like, why haven't they signed him yet? I don't know. Does he want to be here? Maybe he doesn't want to be here. I haven't heard anything. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just interesting to me. The other thing, the New York Rangers scratched Chris Kreider this afternoon and fall 5-0 to the New Jersey Devils. The Rangers have now lost 14 of their last 17 games and have fallen to a record of 16, 17, and 1. This coming on the heels of trading Tackle to the Seattle Kraken for Will Borden and a couple of picks. Rick, it is time to go with the dynamite in that dressing room and start over, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. That is an amazing thing. The same team that was there like into the third round of the playoffs last year. And I think, did they not win the President's Trophy last year?
They did.
Yeah, the Rangers won the President. And how they have just fallen off. And I don't think it's the same coach. It's not like they changed all these players or whatever. It's like everybody suddenly got old, or everybody suddenly got tired or sluggish, or I don't know what it is, but that team, they just can't score anymore. I'm just shocked at how that team, we talk about all the surprises this year. The Oilers, a surprise out of the gate. Minnesota, the Jets, you could say a little bit of a surprise. The Bruins, how they didn't play that well. Washington, the surprise that they were. But that might be it. If you look at it all now, after 35 games roughly, and up until the Christmas break or almost the end of the calendar year, that to me, I think with all the surprises, in my mind, that might be the biggest surprise of all, is how far off the Rangers have fallen. Hey? I figure it out. It's the same guys.
It's not even just how far they've fallen off. It's how fast they've fallen off with no real fits in sight.
Yeah.
And if I'm Shovel Day, to be honest, I'm picking up the phone and phoning Chris Drury about Chris Kreider right now.
Who wants Chris Kreider? Sorry, Chris Kreider?
If I'm Chevy, I'm phoning about Chris Kreider.
Why?
Because that's that mean and nasty that the Jets is in the top 6.
Is he a UFA after this year?
Nope.
And how much doesn't he make like $7 or $8 million a year?
Yep.
Yeah, the Jets can't afford him.
That's
the problem. That's the problem, right? Like with guys, like they say, the Rangers want to make a change. And that's what I said to you. How do you make a change? Like you say, I don't like my team. I want to shake things up. How do you shake things up? Like you can't trade. Like if you're going to get rid of Kreider, you either got to send him to a team like San Jose or Anaheim, which has tons of cap space, or maybe the Utah Hockey Club. I don't know how much cap space they have left. I know Anaheim had a bunch. That's why they were able to take on Trouba. But I'm just saying, or you need to trade out for out. Like you need to find a team like, let's say the Jets, and you need to trade in Kreider and trade out, I don't know, Stanley, and maybe, I don't know who you would trade. I can't even off the top of my head, but somebody with some salary significance. And is Kreider who the Jets want? Is Kreider, is he fast enough? I know he goes to the front of the net. He's a grinder, but is that
It's certainly not the Chris Kreider that beat Montreal in the playoffs all those years ago. And
no, he's a different player now. He's 36. Is he 35, 36 years old now? So he's
yeah. So, and it's just interesting. You wanted to touch on the Vancouver Canucks quickly?
Yeah. That kind of came out of nowhere, didn't it?
I don't know if it came out of nowhere, but it was kept in private for quite some time before. Elliot Friedman reported on his Saturday headlines that the Vancouver Canucks have told Elias Pettersson and JT Miller to settle their differences before it affects the team. I don't know. I don't know, Rhett. I mean, like, I take JT Miller on my team any day of the week if that's great, but somebody wanted to phone me about
JT Miller. To me, that guy, and it could be, and here's my take. I'm going to throw this out there because I'm wondering if other people are thinking it the same way as because I look at this and I know these players. I know like the background. JT Miller's an American. Pettersson is Swedish, right? I believe.
Yep.
That's just Swedish. They come from different hockey worlds and so on. JT Miller would fall on a grenade in order to win a hockey game. In fact, he'd shove his mother headfirst into the boards in order to have room to get to the front of the net and score a goal. That's the mentality of JT Miller. Now, and I've heard that, and it's been confirmed by lots of people, he is he's a hard guy to be friends with on a team because he's always intense. Like some guys are intense on the ice, and then they can be like the sweetest guys off the ice, right? Like really easygoing. You can go have a beer with them, go play PlayStation, or go to the arcade, or go to the mall, walk around. Great guy, easygoing. But on the ice, they flip a switch and they become like this really intense player. And I heard JT Miller, he's just really intense all the time. And he holds guys to account. And now he's one of the best players, but he gets on guys and he doesn't let go. Whereas Pettersson, he's kind of Akuda Matata, Swedish. I want to go for the sauna. I want to rub down. I don't want to go in the corner. I might get hurt. I don't want to go to the front of net. I might get a stick on the back of my legs and I get an owie. And then my owie will turn purple. And then if I go into the sauna room or I get a massage after the game, the massage, it might hurt where I got an owie, where I got a stick slash on the back of my legs when I went to the front of the net. So you've got these two different players with two different mentalities, and they're both assistants, right? So they're assistant captains to Quinn Hughes. So I think what's happening, if you asked me, say, what would I put money on? I think JT Miller has been on Pettersson's case to be better and to more consistently be a better player and to earn your $8 or $9 million a year by going to the hard areas. Don't just float around in the front of the net waiting for everyone else to get the puck for you. You go get it yourself. And go to the hard areas to get the puck or to score or whatever, like everybody else is doing on this team, even the guys that are only making $1 million a year or whatever it is and playing on the fourth line. So, and I think Miller has said that to him out loud, and I think he said it to him in front of the team.
Quite honestly, I think he done his feelings hurt Pettersson.
I know, and I think that's what's happened, is that Pettersson, he doesn't like because Miller is just really intense. Now, I like guys like Miller. I don't need, it's exactly the same. You don't have to be his buddy. You don't have to go for dinner every night. You don't have to hold hands and walk by the river at night singing Kumbaya. You have to play hockey together. And I personally, if I'm an NHL player, if you asked me who would I want on my team, JT Miller or Elias Pettersson right now, I take Miller instantly before I take Pettersson in a heartbeat for all those reasons. Even if he's a hard guy to hang out with, whatever. You know what? If you play hard like JT Miller,
you don't need to hang out with people outside of your work. You're there to do a job, and you do it to the best of your ability.
Right, but here's the thing. I think if Pettersson played with some grit and some, like, that's what actually Tocchet wants out of him too. Like, we need a little bit more from you. You're assistant captain. You're a driver. You're making $9 million a year. Let's go. And he's kind of Hakuda Matata with the hockey stick. It would drive me nuts if I was JT Miller. I'd call him out on it, and it would drive me crazy playing with him.
It,
And you see, well,
it,
JT Miller
it
to play
almost
with.
makes me
Make,
wonder. Yep.
yeah,
It
no, just
almost
to finish
makes
my
me
point.
wonder.
I think Pettersson is the harder one to play with because you don't get that consistent, like what you get from Adam Lowry. Adam Lowry's not going to be on the Four Nations Cup. He's not, but you know what you get from Adam Lowry? You get what you get every night. You know what you get. You get everything you can get out of Adam Lowry that he can give
And
you
more.
with his talent and more. And that's what Miller, I would think, would calls on everybody in his team, and he would say to Pettersson, "You're an assistant captain. These guys down here on the third and fourth line making a fraction of what you're making work harder than you do. You don't work hard enough to earn the right to be assistant captain or to make the money that you do. Pick it up. Let's go." And I think Pettersson, he's got his nose out of joint. I think he doesn't like it. And I think Pettersson knows it. And I think Miller likes it. And if you ask me, that's what it is. That's what it is. I think that Pettersson does not have the same drive that Miller does. And it drives Miller crazy. And he said it to him. And now Pettersson's got his feelings hurt. And now we are where we are. But nobody's going to say that. Rick Tocchet's not going to say Pettersson's not pulling his weight.
I just find it very interesting, but this comes out a few days after Rick Tocchet makes those comments.
Not a coincidence.
It's not an accident.
Nope.
So where does Vancouver go from here? Because I think they risk their whole season going down the drain.
Yeah, and you know what? I just read in the news yesterday. I think the Hockey News or something. Pettersson is signed through 2032, and Miller is signed through 2030. So they're each on long-term deals. In fact, they make the most and the third most in the league. I think Quinn Hughes makes the second most. Pettersson is the number one paid, and Miller is the third highest paid. So what are you going to do? You're going to trade away one of your star players because the two of the three stars in your team can't get along? You know what? All it would take to fix it, Pettersson, put on your big boy panties.
Yeah.
Go hard, work, and earn the respect of your teammates by being a great teammate and by playing consistently and hard all the time. Because if you look at who's played well and who hasn't this year, Pettersson has probably been the least performing Canuck out of all of them.
Yeah, it's interesting. Brett, one more thing just on the way out. I know we're going to go overtime here, but I just want to touch on this quickly. What do you make of the resurgence of the Edmonton Oilers all of a sudden?
Yeah, well, maybe they got off over their summer late NHL season Stanley Cup final losing hangover. Could be it. Skinner's played better. That's been a big part of it.
Fair enough. If you want to watch San Jose, they're playing on the Prime Video game in 2 hours against Vancouver tonight.
Okay.
If you want to watch the Canucks and the Sharks. Really quick question, Rich, sort of on the way out. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I kind of am putting you on the spot here. Who's your Stanley Cup prediction at Christmas?
Right now?
Right now.
I'm going to go off the board. You're going to, folks might be mad at me, but that's okay. I am going to pick, actually, you know what? I'm going to pick who, you know?
You want mine first?
No, you asked me, so I'm going to pick, and this is not, and again, this is just right now, as of right now, what I think it's going to be Vegas and New Jersey.
Man, are you reading my notes?
Is that what you get out of here? No way.
No, I'm serious. I debated Golden Knights beating the New Jersey Devils in the Cup final.
Yeah.
And Winnipeg losing to Vegas in the West final again.
Again.
Yeah.
Are we going to make a prediction on the Jets next week?
Yeah, the thing is, but I am heading out of town more than likely, so I don't know when we're going to do the next show here. So we'll keep it updated. Probably.
Maybe we take a week off. Why don't we just take a Christmas week off?
Okay, we'll take the Christmas week off. we'll be back in the new year, probably January the 6th-ish.
January the 6th is the next Monday then. Yep.
The next Monday. So we have a lot of games to speak of before then.
Well,
So
before the 6th, we're gonna have we'll have 5 games. We'll have 4 at home: Ottawa, Nashville, Anaheim, and Detroit, and 1 on the road. I think the Jets are going to go 4-1. They're going to win all 4 of their home games, and they're going to go into Colorado. And because of climate change, because of altitude change, and because of flying in the night before, they're going to put in a stinker in the Colorado. That's my opinion.
Yeah, see, it's Detroit, Anaheim, Colorado, Nashville, Ottawa.
Those are all winnable games. Ottawa, Nashville, Anaheim, and Detroit are all beneath them in the Stanley Cup.
Like even with and not to get too far ahead of ourselves, dude. This homestand after that, like Nashville, LA, Colorado, Vancouver, Seattle, Calgary. Like there's not a lot of unwinnable games in that stretch that I just read off.
No, not at all.
And you're at home, so you can really put some distance between, yourself and the next batch of teams.
You got to make hay on that homestand. You got to, because you're not traveling, you're not flying anywhere. You got to win. Like you have to win 8 out of 10 games at home. You have to, or go 7-2-1, or no, 6-2. Sorry, 6-1-1, or 6-2, or yeah.
Hey everybody, Rob has spoken something into existence here just on the way out. He said Jets versus Leafs. Jets win a tough series 4-2. That is my world-class dream for those that don't know.
If the Leafs and the Jets get into the Stanley Cup final against each other, I just think, you know what I think you and I will have to do? You and I will have to fly to Toronto and have a show live right in front of Air Canada Centre there.
Inside the arena, Rich. I didn't get credentialed to be inside the arena.
Crazy. I mean, that would be something. If Michael, you know what would be great? Actually, would be good for you. It wouldn't be so good for me because it would be a team that I really hate and a team that I really love. So it could only be for me feast or famine. But for you, it would be like, even though I probably want Winnipeg to win, it's a no-lose situation for you, because if
it's a no-lose situation, because it's like watching 2 of your kids.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, Rich, really quickly, just kind of the last thing on the way out.
Yeah.
One thing that you've been most thankful for when it's to hockey in 2024.
Well, I'm thankful that I'm still able to play it. I'm still healthy enough to be able to play, so that's a good thing. But for the NHL, I'm thankful. Actually, you know what? I should say this. I'm thankful so far this year for the Jets, because I have to be selfish. I'm thankful that their superstar players, I mean, we've had some injuries, but so far, knock on wood, Scheifele, Velarde, Connor, Hellebuck, Morrissey, like your star players, your 5 or 6 star players have been relatively healthy all year long. And that's been a huge part of the Jets, right? Is they haven't had the injury bug that some other teams have had. So I'm very thankful for that. How about you, Michael?
Listen, a couple of things. I'm thankful to be able to do this show with you on a weekly basis, even though the show keeps moving every now and then, which I appreciate. To accommodate my crazy schedule. So there you go. The other thing is I am thankful, much like you, to have a very good hockey team to talk about. And I'm actually thankful that we're getting best on best in February.
Yeah.
I think it's a long time coming, and people are really going to start to see some of the best stars in the NHL on the best surface in the world playing for their countries, and that's what I'm most excited for. I know you and I will have some coverage in and around that tournament, probably, which I haven't talked to you about yet. But no, I'm excited to just see best on best back. I'm thankful it happens. I'm also thankful that we have a very good hockey team to talk about, and if Santa grants me one Christmas wish, a deep playoff run for the Winnipeg Jets. I don't say Stanley Cup. I'm just saying win a round or two. I'll be very happy. And of course, good health for the Winnipeg Jets. So that is it. We are done. By the way, who are you picking for the World Juniors? Canada?
Yeah, Canada. I think it's going to be Canada or USA. I think the USA is strong again this year too. So
yeah, they are very strong.
yeah.
Winnipeg Jets fans are gonna like what they see with Braden Yeager. He puts up a big World Junior this next 2 weeks, and Canada wins the Spengler Cup. Anyway, on behalf of me and Rich, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. We'll see you January the 6th, everybody. Hard to believe it. It should be a packed 2025 with, fingers crossed, a deep playoff run in the 204. For Rich Petty, I'm Michael Justine. Have a great holiday season with friends and family. We will chat with you in 2025. Good night from Winnipeg.